when you got started, my understanding is Slackware didn't yet have a web presence beside like the FTP server.
Correct. Yeah. So, sort of one thing that, and I don't remember the exact conversation with Patrick, but we were interested. A couple of us at university were interested in providing. We're like, well, a lot of projects have a website. We can put one together for the project.
It's kind of weird
And
that's even a thought, right? Because now
I know.
that's just the default thing you do. If you have even if it's not like a complete product, it's just make a website, buy a URL, just throw it up there.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, and we put together a website. He liked it and wanted to go forth with it. So that's how Slackware got its web presence, was uh, us sort of saying, "Hey, can we do this?" and then we did, and we because he already had Slackware.com.
Mm.
He had the domain name. And then we set up a server and put it on there, and yeah, we did several iterations of the site. Everything was I will say that was Slackware.com. Working on that website was the last time I really did any web
Mm.
thing. Um, Not really a web guy
Aha.
myself. I'm not. uh, but it sort of brought me into the Slackware fold where I could start working on other stuff. But we did the site was it was HTML written by hand, and later we used PHP, which was new at that point, PHP version 2,
Ooh.
and we could do a little more dynamic content. All of the graphics were done by us in the GIMP, what few or what little graphics there are. And then the biggest thing I think we added in 2000 was the online discussion forums that we put
Mm.
on the website. And those got to be really popular because at that point we didn't have like a discussion mailing list for the project. What we monitored mostly were Usenet postings, which was really just a subset of users, and not everyone knew how to get into that. And
Mm-hmm.
then there were also IRC channels, which we didn't really go into those. Those were just community members. So we're like, it'd be nice to have a discussion forum because, people are asking us the same question. Why don't we put it here? And we found this guy had written an open source sort of discussion board software called Forum, Phorum, and it was written in PHP, so it was a nice thing that we could integrate into the site. And at one point, the author of that software came out to California for something and wanted to meet us. He's like, "Yeah, you're one of the biggest users of my software, and just wanted to thank you." And we would provide him feedback and patches here and there. I wrote an import tool when he re-architected a bunch of stuff, and we had to extract all of the discussion like threads and then re-import them into a new database because it was not compatible. And so I wrote a tool to do that, and I was like, "Hey, someone else might want this," and he said, "No, probably not, but I'll take it anyway." Yeah, he was nice, and yeah, it kept running after all of us left,
Mm.
but I don't think it's on the website anymore. I don't think it's
Yeah,
there.
I couldn't see a link to it. It seemed like it is gone. Regarding Forum,
Mhm.
their latest version was from 6 years ago, so it seems like the project is dead at this point.
Yeah, that would be my guess. Yeah, started in 1998.
Mm.
I feel like this is software that served a purpose at the time, but
Right, right.
is no longer really. I wouldn't. I don't think I would use it now to set up a discussion board.
Mhm.
And not because it's bad, just because there's not really a need for that
Sure.
anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We've got other solutions, and also most like it's so easy now to get an open source project like from the ground up. You could go to GitHub and you suddenly have a way for people to have discussions. You have ways for people to send you patches. You have ways for people to open issues. You have a wiki where you can add
Mhm.
user contributed documents. All that stuff that large projects have, but took time to set up. And the vast majority back in the 90s, the vast majority of open source scratch and itch type software that you would find would just be dumped on an FTP site. And because that's all the developer. It's like, I want to put it out there, but I'm not going to make this a huge project. So you would go digging in FTP sites to find stuff. And now I think GitHub, Codeberg, certainly, and GitLab, maybe to a lesser extent, they have these nice environments for that. And the idea is not really new. Like,
Mm.
I don't know if you remember SourceForge.
Mm, mm, mm.
Um, so that came out of a company that had started as VA Research, which made Linux workstations, like custom built, and then that became VA Linux, and then they created SourceForge.net, which was an early sort of thing like GitHub. This is before Git existed. And I don't know if anyone listening to this or watching this, if they remember that, early on the Linux kernel was not in version control.
Mhm.
It was just released as gzipped tar files, and you could download a big patch and apply it to the source tree you already downloaded.
Mhm.
But patches, new things were submitted by email.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and that continued for a very long time, even when many other projects were using CVS. That was really the only thing that we had. At some point, we got Subversion when CVS, people were getting frustrated. Um, I can't remember some of the other. There were like a dozen that just sort of all blasted out around the same time that were going to quote unquote fix CVS,
Mhm.
but none of them really addressed the fundamental problem of needing the ability to have distributed version control.
Yep.
And Linux first went into a product called BitKeeper,
Mhm. Mhm.
which was commercial, and that was, in my opinion, that was not a good move, but it did introduce developers to the concept of distributed version control. But then the story, how we got Git out of that, the need to, we're working this way. We need a tool because what the license was going, I can't remember, the license was going away, or the company folded, or something like that.
I did a
Anyways,
video on this a long time ago. I don't
yeah,
remember the
yeah,
exact story. Um. Oh, they had. Yeah, right. They had given. Um. They'd given kernel developers free access to it, and then
right.
they were switching. They're switching their license or something. I don't. Yeah, it says the history on the Wikipedia page. Someone wants to go
Yeah,
read that. I don't remember
exactly.
exactly what it was.
There was some change like that, which basically forced the creation of
Oh
Git.
yeah. Also, there was some like drama where um they
Oh
didn't want
yes,
people that were using BitKeeper to go work on Mercurial.
yep, there was that, and a number of developers had they had reverse engineered the
Right.
protocol,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then was that who was that did that? Well,
And
I remember very famously that happened, and then the CEO of Bitmover, the company that made BitKeeper, revoked that kernel developer right, like that license, like revoked his right to use the tool.
Andrew Tridgell.
Yeah, Tridge. It was. That's who I thought it was. Yeah.
Right. How did I forget? This is the Australian guy. Yeah, of course it's the Australian guy. Why wouldn't it be the Australian guy?
Yeah.
We show up everywhere just doing random. We're a tiny little island. You can't. No one lives here, but we're involved in everything.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. We were talking about all the desktop environments, and we never once mentioned Enlightenment, which you know is still going. But yeah, so I don't know why I got on Get and SourceForge. I was talking about that.
Yes.
Like, yeah, we were talking about websites, and now it's like projects are. It's so easy to just get all that stuff sort of immediately when you set up a project. But that wasn't always the case. SourceForge was created to make that easier for people. But its implementation was rough. I mean, even from day one, it was like, I am not moving a project here. And then at one point, let's see, as in recent years, I say recent, maybe probably the past 10 years, but as it was being passed around by different companies, so they were just buying the property. One of the owners at some point, they were taking software that was on SourceForge for download, and then they were like adding like, I mean, malware. It was like they're adding like, here's some additional shareware that we're going to put in there. And yeah, it was garbage, but I mean, that was just the unraveling of it all. That happened, you know, after it was long since past the point of relevance, I think. But yeah, it was big for a while just because there wasn't anything like it, and then GitHub showed up, and you know, things like GitHub and GitLab and Codeberg, none of those things would exist without Git. So they even, you know, owe their success really to yet another thing that came out of Linux.